Hello and welcome. I want to teach you a little bit about how to make a simple mini weaving today. So you can use, this was made on this type of a loom, so this size. You could also use what you have at home. So we have right here some foam core, which is similar size, cut a little smaller. But a little piece of foam core, we got a little piece of cardboard. So I just want to show you how you can lace up using pins. So pretty easy. We're going to pin directionally. So that means the weaving will be in this space. I'm going to put these about 1/4 inch apart. So let's just show you how this works. So on the top we're going to have, you can pin right through. We're going to have an odd number, and on the bottom we're going to have an even number. So on the top we'll pin those in, and on the bottom down here we'll pin some as well. So you want to put them relatively across from each other, not totally necessary. And let's just do that. So pinning this in. And you can have a surface that's larger than what you want to weave. This is just relatively small, so I'm really just going to the outer edges of it. And again, even numbers down below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so far. 7, 8. So we'll keep 8 down there, and then we'll do 7 up here. So right now we have 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so there's our first one, all right? And you'll notice the directional pinning, it's angled away. So, all right, let's do this one as well. And we'll do this one really wide. So again, directionally pinning. We'll give this a wider space. And that means larger media could go in there. So we could put t-shirts in there. We could make a t-shirt warp. The warp is going to be our length running this way, back and forth, and we're going to weave into the warp. So the warp is the structure and sustains the weaving. Okay, so we got 7 up here. Let's do same thing. 8 down on the bottom. Alright, so again, you'll see they're angled just slightly upright. Alright, so there's 2 different looms. Here's actually a third if you have one of these. These are all going to do the same thing. So that means you can make any size you want, which is kind of exciting, right? So, yes, this came off of this size, and we have a smaller one here that came off of something about like this, alright? So just to give you an idea. Alright, let's start threading up. So we're going to use some linen. I have these 3 linen tubes. And if you don't know how to do a slip knot, let's work with that really quick. And let's use a brighter color. A slip knot is basically creating a loop and then putting a small amount through, not pulling the tail through. So we're just pulling that. So that was visible in the air. Now I'm going to do it flat, or like this. And this string is going over top. Now that is the end string. That's, you know, the cut end, right? So we're going to just reach through that loop and grab enough, but you can see that tail keeps coming towards me. You want to make sure that it's long enough that it doesn't, or that you figure out your skill level so that you don't pull it through. So also I just reach through and pull it. So the Slipknot is it's so fabulous for working with all of this because it releases very easily, which is important. So again, I'm just going to reach through and pull that. And you can see I'm going to need to hold on to that tail so it doesn't pull through. All right, so there's our slip. We're going to lace this up. And one thing that's really fun about creating your warp is you can do different colors. So you'll see I have different colors out here. So we're going to do a striped warp. We have 3 colors. And you can stripe back and forth as much as you'd like. One other thing that you can do, here is a already threaded up and loom that I'm working on, is make the ends really long. So when I'm lacing up, I'm going to be going back and forth, and I'll leave longer bits at the end. You can really just over knot it. I often slip knot it. That's my method. So I'm going to put this around this hook here. I'm going to bring it this direction, and this is the end, right? This is an open cut strand. I'm going to tighten that slip around there. All right, so now we have that. Now if I take this back down and around, I could cut this and add another one on. All right, so let's do both methods. Let's do where we cut. We'll have a nice little pink edge there. I'm going to start with some yellow. And we're actually going to just, you could just, well, I'm still going to do a slip knot. I prefer a slip. You could do an over knot, but slips allow you a little bit more agility. So now we have the pink coming around. And I can keep going with the yellow. I can decide not to build in length down below, or I can build in that length. So I do really prefer to have the length. So the other method that I would do down here is now I would do a slip knot. You can of course cut like I did the first time. And I'm going to pull, again, not pulling this through all the way. All right, and setting that down there. Now you might think, like, if it's a slip knot, isn't it going to slip when I pull up here? And it only if I really give tension to both sides of that knot. So it's fine for right now. So that's doing that with this loom, and we'll get back to that in one moment. I'm just going to show you really quickly lacing up on this. So we're going to take this. This is like a cotton bamboo, and you could do it so simply. I'm just going to pull a bunch off this tube, cut, do my slip knot, so I'm putting it around the needle. And really to thread up, this is really the simplest, most straightforward way of doing it. So really just back and forth. Now, if you are not nimble with your hands or your eyes, you don't want to do it this size. But this has at least a nice demo size to show you the concept. We certainly weave on this size as well. So you'll notice there's that even amount up top, the odds up top, the even down below, and then we can stop down here. So again, I will cut this and we'll just anchor it. And you don't want to do this too tight because remember, you're going to weave into that and you want to have space to get in between those warps. So I'm going to grab this, do a slip. Sometimes it's hard to fit it right up against when you're slip knotting against a fixed point, but you'll get used to it and you'll be able to do that. All right, so there's our little mini weaving loom. All right, now back to this one. All right, so here we are. We're on something a little larger. You could get a piece of cardboard this large. You could go larger. The one thing with cardboard I just want to point out is if the tension right here is too strong, it'll start to actually bend and crimp somewhere, and these points will get sort of make like a U-shaped curve to the cardboard, and it will start bending. I'm not going to physically bend that because I want to keep it. But that is something to really be aware of, because there will be tensions and you'll be working through here, and it might end up like if you pull it these, you could imagine this point and this point, it might pull together the length here and bend on you. So, all right, let's get this a little untangled. And one thing that I have going on here is I do actually have a broken peg on here. So I am going to have to stop a little bit short. We made a slip knot on that last section. I'll do one here. And sometimes it's fun, like the way I like to weave is just having like an interesting stripe. It can be like a small element in the piece, or it can be really bold. But a striped warp is kind of fun. So let's get a little off the tube and keep going here. So in the video previous to this, where I'm threading up a large orange warp, this is what I'm doing. I'm making that slip knot. I think slip knots are like amazing to continue to show, because they can be a little tricky. And again, just pulling a little bit through. And then what happens is it slips out if you give tension to both directions. So again, it's basically like, there we have like an upside down letter E, lowercase, and then we're just pulling through. So if you don't have that mastered, keep working at that, because it's very, very helpful in many processes while weaving. All right, and we'll do the other method again really quick here, where we change a color again. So I'll go to the blue now, where we have an end. So whatever you're comfortable with. And we're going to eyeball about where we want that slip knot, somewhere in this region down here. We're going to go around a fingertip. You can make the slip very small and controlled if you do it just around a fingertip. You could also make it really big and pull through. So now we're going to go with the blue part of the warp here. Pull some out. And again, what this does is that between these pegs are fixed points. So you want to be able to, I'm just creating a longer warp. Because I like the length, I like the dimension that it creates. I like to have a little option. And then also, in the finishing, there's a twisting method you can do, and it has what's called, it takes up space when you twist, right? It's going, just like when you weave into the warp, when we weave into this area, it's going to actually like take up room, and that's called uptake. It's going to make things a little bit tighter as we weave down further and further. We'll start weaving from this end, going towards our loops. And same when you twist an end. So if you have a scarf with a twisted fringed end, they're twisted and twisted and twisted, and they actually like shrink up as you twist them. So that's pretty much what happens when you both weave into this, and if we do any finishing down below that would have twisting. All right, so one more slip and then we're done. So go back and forth one more time here, and now we can cut. So again, one more slip knot. And you want your warp somewhat fitted in tight, but not too tight. You want it a little bit loose like this. All right, so there we are. We're all laced up, and now we will start weaving in. So weaving into the warp. So I am going to weave from this direction here. Let's see what we can put in. So often when you weave, you might start with a header that gives you a little space, especially if you're on a floor loom. And what the header does is space everything out. This is already regimented for us, and it's spaced out beautifully. Let's see what we got over here. So now I'm going to start playing with materials here. I'll pull out what I have. I have this interesting rope. And you can use all kinds of things. So really what I'm going to show you now is like be experimental with materials. So this is a really interesting nylon fabric that I just cut into strips, strip after strip, until all that fabric was gone, because I really love the color. And this is cording. I'm not sure what it's from exactly, but I keep a little bin and have lots of goodies in this little basket bin in my living room. And every time there's like, you know, there's actually this, you know, a washing bag. The zipper's broken. Do I spend the time to fix the zipper? Often I fix a lot of things. So this I'm actually going to cut up and use. That's a little bit more efficient for me. And then this is like twill tape. So this came around sheeting or something, bedding. So twine. I've disassembled beautiful, fun old bandanas and just cut the fabric into them. This is about 3/4 of an inch wide. Ribbon. So just think about all those scraps that you come across. And a favorite. I think, well, this is kind of fun. This is my last loop. I had a huge bag of pot holder loops because I made a lot of pot holders. And this is one of the last surviving loops. So there we are. Lots of different types of materials. And then I keep a scrap yarn ball going. So this is always fun to bring in different color. And one of my favorite things, why I grabbed this bin, I knew this little scrap was in here. This is video audio cassette tape. This is audio actually. So if you have any type of old media like that, totally fun to work with. So I'm just going to keep these accessible, and we'll pull these in at any point while I'm weaving. And here we go. I'm going to pick up every other thread, and you'll see there's this open space inside, which we call the shed, where my fingers are. It's the space in which we insert through the thread, the yarn, anything that you may have. So this, you'll see as my finger works on this, as I pull, if you're working on something that has a little less strength, it's gonna pull. Another way we've woven on these is made notches in the end. Again, that pulls a lot, it works, but your cardboard will, you know, lose its ability after a while. What you could also do is laminate multiple pieces together. So in other words, just get glue in between, let it set up, get some heavy books on top, set it down, and then put your pins in, and it's nice and strong. Also, what would work well is homosew. So you can pin into it. We have that all over the walls in our art schools in different areas of construction. I'm not sure what they use it for, but it's fantastic to pin into. So, all right, here is now our second row. We're choosing all of the opposite yarns that we'd picked up previously. And you want to figure out and tuck away that beginning tail. So this came across, I picked up every like odd number, so 1, 3, 5, 7, if you're actually like numbering the warp threads. And now I'm putting it in, this is like the row that has picked up all the even strands. So what I want to do is tuck in that little end. And it looks like I can tuck it a little bit further. So it's going in the same exact space as now the second row that I'm weaving. So the first row, we pick a row, that's what we said, we pick across, and then we can put the tail in, and then that second row we can push that up against, and that tail and the second row are in the exact same shed. Let me pick it up and show you. So they're in like the same place. All right, so now we can really just start weaving. So we've done a striped warp. We could do a striped weft, what we're weaving into it. We can start like putting in crazy colors, big things. But for right now, we're just going to do some plain weave. So we'll stick with kind of a regular yarn. And now this was pretty short. So then the next thing that's really important to know is, again, picking that new row, threading this in, and you could additionally start your new yarn right on top. So what's happening is they are layered, right? This tail and this tail are now being layered. All right, and then I'm going to keep weaving across here. And I tend to pick up a grouping and then pull this through. All right, and you can just keep going and going and going. And what I will do now is a like sped up video of me finishing this up. So there are many other techniques. We'll go over other techniques in a video for next week. All right. Stay well and hope to talk to you soon. Take care.